Hello there, kia ora. Over the last couple of days, you've probably seen a lot of stuff around charter schools, and this is an area that gets really highly charged, and there's a lot of panic going on in different circles. So I thought I'd try and break it down for you to give you an understanding of what a charter school actually is, how the system works overseas, and what that bodes for here in this particular country, because we've had them before, we've got some learnings. Essentially, a charter school is a private school that's run with public funding. It means that they don't have to meet the same criteria or follow the same rules for education curriculum and how they run their school. Supporters claim that this is a way that allows schools to basically deal with students on their own terms and get better outputs based around the way that students learn. Detractors claim that it's all about ideology more than educational needs and putting those ahead of children's actual needs. And the truth is actually somewhere in the middle. It varies from charter school to charter school. The fact is that there's always going to be some students who do better in a non traditional education system, but there are also people who wish to set up charter schools specifically to indoctrinate children to their perspective. Like Brian Tamaki, who's already said he intends to set up a charter school because back in 2018, David Seymour promised him he could. And there is absolutely no way that this isn't a pipeline for Brian Tamaki to basically indoctrinate bigotry and hatred into more young people along the way. Now, in terms of outcomes, these have been pretty mixed around the world as well, including here in Aotearoa. Well, the lack of oversight here caused issues with student outcomes under the system last time it was set up. And organisations like the PPTA and the Teachers Union, they did then and still have concerns around the skills and qualifications of people employed to teach at these schools. The concerns aren't helped, though, by the fact that this is going to be set up to be managed by a government department that isn't within the Ministry of Education. It's separate to that. There's also concerns about a systemic setup to push students towards charter schooling, a specific approach to structured education topics and school behaviours being forced on public schools that we're seeing right now ignores the individual learning needs of students, which increases the appeal of charter schools. And these schools have a minimum 10-year life cycle unless they really, really manage to screw up. On top of that, charter schools have been used in a number of other countries around the world to various levels of success. Each country's reported some successes, but a number of failures based around a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility for actions which harm student output, and societal issues being exacerbated. The countries where charter schools actually tend to succeed the best are the ones that have the most inequitable societal makeups. So you're looking at something like the United Kingdom and the United States. The ones that they tend to fail the most have the most equitable societal outcomes, like Finland, for example. And these don't tend to do very well if they're promoting those inequities. If they're dealing with the inequities to try and get more equitable outcomes, that's when a charter school tends to do better. When it comes to how this is going to play out here, there's a whole bunch of questions. There's still questions around regulation, for example, how they're going to measure outcomes and finalise funding models, because there's bound to be more information for this on the budget. There's also issues around the fact that the person setting this up, David Seymour, has said very specifically part of the plan here is to break up the power of unions for teachers. And that should be a real concern because that's a lot of bargaining power that he wants to whittle away. There's also the issue that since these tend to work better in societies that are trying to deal with inequitable outcomes, and our government's not a big fan of dealing with the idea of inequitable outcomes, in fact, they're a big fan of creating less equitable outcomes, it probably doesn't bode very well for this charter school system to be able to deliver the needs that they want to put in place for the students without coming at a cost of actually hurting people along the way.